Hey, I wanted to talk about AI and how it is a big boon for me personally, and I think for people like me. So, one way that it's a big boon is that I've talked about how neurodivergence before, but I'm not sure if this is part of neurodivergence or something else, but I have a lot of ideas and I write them down because early on I watched a TED talk about taking notes on your ideas. But before that, I had even been taking notes, and I ended up with thousands of notes about a variety of projects. And, maybe I went into a flow state or alpha or beta or whatever at certain points in my life, and I was able to record the insights from that. But what that's left me with is, I go back to George R. R. Martin, this garden of worlds, that are both stories and also ideas and also journal entries and also dreams. Like I have a dream journal, and these have been accumulating, but I can sense the themes and the threads and the through lines of these projects. But AI has allowed me to bring these threads together and to make actual progress in a way that I feel is taking advantage of all of the thought and all of the notes that I've taken up until this point. So that's a great boon for me, and it's something that just in the past few weeks I've really leaned into, and I'm very encouraged by it. But also, right now I'm using the Atlas concept. You can check the other video I made about the Atlas concept. But I'm using these atlases or these markdown or text files as a way to move between models so that I can use the free service. So I have used ChatGPT and paid for it $20 for a few months in the past. And then I let go. Maybe it was just one single month, and I made a lot of progress on a particular project, brainstorming. And I noticed that it gave me a lot of uh, insight, and the advanced model or the memory function of it was very helpful. Now, I'm not currently paying for any models, but I'm using the atlases to attach to a request, and they bring the model up to speed memory wise. And I think that people who are not limited by the constraint of money or human resources around them, collaborators or even services, have not had these constraints or have utilized these advantages that AI is now providing for me in the free models that I'm using. So, for example, Jaron Lanier, I think about him a lot. He is a high level free consultant kind of guy at Microsoft, and his entire career he's been he was there at the formation of the internet. He coined the term virtual reality. He has the resources of financially and the corporation of Microsoft and the network and connections to bounce his ideas off of, to he has coding skills, but also he has access to coders. He has access to the highest end software and computer, this, as he says, the siren servers. So that's not something that I have had access to, although I have, a plethora of ideas and life experiences to bring to bear on my thought process. So AI is able to be my assistant. I never grew status in any sort of corporate or financial structure or hierarchy enough to have an assistant. I never had enough money, or I never had enough connection to a company that would allow me to have that. So now that I have this AI that's able to do it, to execute tasks for me, I am really leaning into this and taking advantage of it, because I almost feel that it's going to be taken away. I've made so much progress, and I feel like I've only realized the potential recently, and it's grown. My realization has grown with the capacity of these models, and it's reached a peak where I even think I'm being, to some extent, squelched or throttled by the AI models now, because I've asked so much of them over the actually in the past few weeks, that I think my IP address is throttled a little bit. So, but I have those atlases that I've developed with the free trial to Grok, is how it started, and then the $20 I spent on a month for ChatGPT, and I had a free trial to Perplexity, and then used the Claude model in Perplexity, because I really prefer the Claude model for all of my projects, because it does what I ask it to in terms of exporting files specifically. So this is a very democratizing technology as it is now, and it's preliminary, but I expect that if these AI companies throttle this technology and don't allow them as a public utility, essentially, it would be to consolidate power, and that is very probable, I think, especially as the models become more and more powerful. Even the models that we have now, so much is possible for anyone, really. And I asked ChatGPT what percentage of the world uses AI, and it gave me a surprising answer, with surprising numbers, actually. 77% of the world is using AI within certain architecture, computer architecture, but like YouTube algorithm, for example, I would suspect. But only 33% of the world is actively or consciously using AI, where they're using AI systems explicitly and realize that they're using AI systems. So, like asking questions of an AI model, for example. But even 33%, that's higher than I actually expected. So I find it exciting, and I'm not concerned personally with competitive advantage, because I think that that's where we've really gone wrong. Um, I recently saw an interview with Jason Hickey, I think his name is Hickley, and he said that capitalism is not markets and it's not the marketplace. Capitalism is because the marketplaces and exchange of goods and services existed before capitalism. Capitalism is the layer on top of that marketplace, the innovation on top of that marketplace, that the main result, or the main goal of those markets is profit. So the endless growth or the endless pursuit of profit at the expense of all other values is the innovation of capitalism. So we don't have to, if we were to work against capitalism, we'd be doing more democratizing acts that value human thriving as opposed to pure profit. So this relates to AI in that by choosing not to have a competitive attitude, I am building the foundation for a individual mindset within myself that is free of capitalism, so that then that can spread and I can connect with like-minded people, perhaps such as yourself, who can buck that trend and sure engage in marketplaces, but without the explicit goal of profit, a more humanistic goal, which is human thriving. So I feel like AI it's in a phase right now where it is still available to me, and I've gotten a taste of how much of an impact it can make on a person such as myself, who has a lot of ideas but doesn't have the institutional backing or the corporate structure or the financial backing to afford an assistant or a processing team. And that's what it's been for me these past few weeks, since I realized what it could do for me, and since I created the Atlas concept, which is not like an invention in the sense that, well, whatever, doesn't matter, but yeah, I feel very encouraged. And I went swimming the other day and I realized how I can use the Atlas to create prompts that will then, I've prompted, many prompts have gone into creating this text file, which is these atlases that comprise my memoir, my world building, screenwriting, video game writing, master manuscript, master design document, my career atlas, which describes my job search. It makes resumes for me, but also describes my pedagogy for things like helping me with personal statements and tracking what I'm applying for and why, my values in terms of what I'm going to work for. And these three things came from the Life Atlas, which I've now discontinued because it was too much. It was a bloated document that had too much information about me, which I didn't want to continue to feed into the system, even though it's probably permanently there. So these atlases have, like for example, yesterday I was able to create 3 beautiful resumes that were optimized for ATS, or basically the computer system that screens resumes. And I was able to create 3 different ones for 3 different possible roles or categories of roles that I am applying for, and to do it in a way that's optimized and to do it in a way that's beautiful, because I've chosen a format that I particularly like. And with the world building, the second atlas, I have created a side document to that, which actually Claude told me it was good to keep them separate. And basically the master manuscript atlas has the lore of my world that I've created over many years. And I've created what's called an episode matrix, which is the episode list. And I used David Lynch. David Lynch said you just need 72 scenes to make a story, a film. And I thought, okay, cool, I can do that. So I actually divided that by 3 and said, okay, I'm just gonna make 24 because that's all I can mentally conceive of. But with AI, I've been able to expand those 24 core scenes with 1 on each side. So almost like a escalation, battle scene, if you will, and a denouement, or a resolution arc for 24 times. And 24 times 3 is 72, I think. So I've created 3 episodes, 3 scenes and 3 scenes is an episode 24 times, and that's a matrix. And I have it I can have the computer or the AI print the matrix or create a printable matrix, but as it is now, it's the matrix of data. So I can print it as a spreadsheet, basically, but it's a matrix of data that describes the story that I'm going to tell. So then, within that, so now I've used the lore, the master manuscript, to help me create okay, I've got the matrix right here. Let me do this. This is good. So there's 2 sides and then the 3rd side right here. So what that means is that I'm able to print this out, look at it, make adjustments, and then tell AI to update the matrix with my adjustments. And then I'm going to use the master manuscript to analyze the matrix. And so kind of like they will enhance each other until I get to a point where I'm satisfied with what's being the story. And then I'm going to fill in even more detail with, like, for example, dialogue snippets and dialogue would be a really good contribution, and descriptions just of like what visually is happening, because really these are plot points. So once I have that for each scene, then the master manuscript through the episode matrix, which is layered with my dialogue and more, will be able, for each scene or each like scene of this matrix, will be able to create a prompt, and each scene is 1 minute. So that prompt will be derived from also the images I've created of using figurines, scanning figurines with a green screen background, and attributing those to the characters. So I'll give that, and that'll be part of the prompt, and then AI can make a prompt for each scene. This is what I'm imagining. And then that prompt will have all the complexity of all of those documents. And my databases and my notes and everything is coming together into a visual representation of what I wanted to portray. That's been a collaboration between me and AI at every point. So I'm telling the story and its complexity to AI in a way that AI can understand, and then AI can tell the story to another AI, and that other AI will have the advantage of being able to visualize and create video clips. And that prompt that goes into the AI for a 1 minute episode might be a mile long, but that's okay because AI can process lots of information and integrate it into a succinct 1 minute panel of 9:16 video. And that represents the culmination of years of mental complexity, but also many tokens and many the AI, let's say it's the combined human, knowledge accessible through technology. It's also drawing upon human innovation in general, not just my own. So that feels like it would be accessible to a broad audience in many ways that I can't anticipate. And so the audience for the Career Atlas is these systems, and then an HR person or a hiring person or a adjudicator or a judging panel. So there's both a computer and a machine. So why shouldn't I have myself as a computer and a human, a system and a human? So why shouldn't I have my own system to accompany my humanity? And so I'm reaching to the system. The system is speaking to their system. Their people can call my people, right? And then that system communicates to that human. So there's a collaboration between these layers. And since there are many different systems I'm reaching out to, then I need the technology to make that effective. Because really, in terms of my career, it's just agonizing for me. This is another point I wanted to make. I'm glad I got here. So, I lived in Japan for 7 years, and I went to private lessons for Japanese. I took 2 university Japanese courses, and I was guilted by countless individuals about I don't write Japanese, essentially. I don't know kanji. I never sat down and memorized the Japanese or Chinese characters. So I just came to terms with it, especially since I've left, and I was leaving. I was like, okay, well, oh well. But there's an aspect of it where it's not the way my mind works to memorize like that is crushing to me. That's not, I'm, for whatever reason, it's just not what I want to do. I don't want to. I would prefer not to. But I have gained a lot of sense of the Japanese language and a lot of words, vocabulary, common speech is my favorite thing. I remember I was this is the same topic, but I was in a two-person piano class, and I remember Sanjeev, he was in the piano class with me, and he was playing for Elise, but we were kind of intermediate piano players, and I never kind of got beyond that, but he played for Elise with accompaniment, and I played the Doogie Howser soundtrack because I wanted to figure out how that Doogie Howser, I wanted to like dun dun, you know, like dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. I wanted to pick that out and figure it out. And at the end, the teacher, her name was Karen Wagner. She said, these two students, you know, we had a recital, and I played Doogie Howser soundtrack, and he played for Elise, and she said, these two students have different skill sets. One of them likes to replicate, and the other one likes to go down the rabbit hole of how skillful and complex can I do. And I like to replicate the common vernacular of languages. Like in Mexico, I learned words like fresa, which is like bougie girl, but you can apply it, it's like means strawberry literally, but it's like bougie rich girl, you know, like we think like, I was like, is it basic, like pumpkin spice loving, you know, like UGG wearing girl? And they're like, no, it's more like bougie, you know. And I was like asking all these questions, and it was the big joke because I was always asking like, what is fresa? Is that fresa? Is that fresa? Ha ha ha, you know. But that's the same thing I had with Japanese. I'm like, oh, shibui, what does that mean? Old school. Oh, so is this shibui? Is that shibui? Is this cool? You know, like, is shibui negative and positive, or just one or the other? And so kanji didn't enter into that. I wasn't trying to learn for Elise or learn how to play the piano as excellently to become a concert pianist. I wanted it to be an expression of the things I like and the context that I have. All this to say, AI is helping me to describe my context. I think resumes will be obsolete because resumes aren't enough information. We've relied on a sort of crystallized element of, oh, this is the basic outline of my career. But I think, and also fold in references, but references is already out too, and so is test scores. What for me is more with AI coming out, we're able to see a bigger picture, and I think portfolio is the old analog to what we're having now. Portfolios describe our metadata, they encompass all of the experiences and actions we've taken and our thought processes. So our career timeline in a resume, or the perception of someone else, is not, or a test score is not an effective assessment or matching system. So in it really, okay, this is where it's going. I got it. So all of those things really are advantageous to the entrenched power structures or elite people who can have someone privately tutor them how to take the test, or have excellent references just from that their mom or dad knows, or their family is connected to, or go to an elite school, or get nepotism at an elite job. Those are all things that would be in your resume, which would then boost you further. But a more pure, rich, true assessment of a person's ability to contribute, not just to the profit, but to the why, to the advancement, progress of an organization, a group, or humanity itself in a certain role, would be a portfolio or an atlas that is developed over time, is rich with influences, not yes or no binaries, but a rich story that is AI legible, which is increasing every day, what AI can read in a matter of seconds and conceive of. And that's what this atlas is for a career. And that's what the world building atlas is for the story I'm trying to tell, where people can get different things from all the detail that it's enriched with. And the fact that that story atlas, that master design document, AI can turn that into a film, or it can turn it into a video game where you can make choices, build your own adventure, choose your own adventure thing, or it can turn it into a virtual world, or it could turn it into a Dungeons and Dragons game. So for all these reasons, I'm feeling very empowered, because this technology has opened my mind to having access to the resources that I felt were burdensome, because I didn't have access to them. I didn't have that advantage. But I've always been told, and I've always realized that I do have many privileges, but these advantages are open to anyone with a computer right now, and eventually they could be open to everyone. So not everyone with a computer, because I'm sure apps are censored and whatnot, but this is going to change the hierarchy of our world. And this is going to, if we do it right, we could advance the cause of humanity. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.